After pitching to over 200 angel investors and raising from maybe 40 of them in the course of the last 10 years, I've come to realize that there are a bunch of different ways in which you can convince someone to invest in you. Angel investing is a lot like dating. You can either build a healthy or an unhealthy relationship with an investor depending on how you approach it. Approach one, make them fall in love with you. This is almost always the best approach. I've had some investors commit during the first meeting itself because there was a connection. Now, some of these people who committed during the first meeting knew what we were building, and some others had not much of an idea of what we were building. But just like relationships, it's almost always better if they know what they're getting into. Approach two, guilt trip them into investing, especially when investors meet with you and they don't make a decision, but they ask for follow up meetings and they go from meeting to meeting without making a decision. There may come a point at which you can kind of guilt trip them into writing you a check. This has happened to me a couple of times where these investors met with me 5 or 6 times, didn't make a decision, and then eventually felt like, oh my God, I made her come all the way, meet with me so many times. So I'm going to write a check. I almost always do not do this anymore because these people don't add a lot of value in the cap table. They've written this check just out of guilt and they want nothing to do with the company and they're not connected with you anymore. So these days, when I'm pitching to investors, I try and push for a decision at the second meeting because if it's an angel investment and happening pretty early on in the life cycle of the company, there is not a lot to discuss to keep going in meetings after meetings. Typical angel investors will come pretty close to making a decision in meeting two or at most the third meeting. So I try to do that instead of try and drag this on where it turns into guilt, just not useful. Number three, create FOMO. This doesn't need a lot of discussion. You know what this means. Typically works better if someone they know is also investing in the round. But this does require a pretty short and compressed timeline where you can tell people that you're closing the round soon and someone they know is investing and all that stuff to be lined up. And so may not work all the time. So use it when it is meaningful. Number four, use social proof. Strategically weave in common people you know into the conversation. Generally, these have to be either other entrepreneurs they know and respect, or other investors they know and respect, or generally people in power. Now, if you do this, and if you picked other investors that they know and respect, who you know, and if those investors are not investing in you, you better have a really clear explanation as to why that is the case. Otherwise, this will backfire on you. I'll give you an example of what happened to us. In the very early days, we had an advisor who is extremely well respected in the industry. And I went to then meet another investor who was very impressed that we had this advisor on our side. And they asked, how much is he investing? And he wasn't investing in us. And that was the end of the conversation. That conversation ended right when that question was asked. So be prepared to answer this. If you don't have a good answer, do not bring those people up. Number five isn't really a tactic, but it's something you should really work on, which is know your expanded market thoroughly. This is especially important if you're going to pitch to an expanded group of investors who may or may not know the area that you're working on deeply. For example, when I was fundraising for the previous company where we were working on video, a lot of questions would come up about generative video and avatars and video editing and all sorts of things, even though ours was specifically not generative video. So um, I still needed to know a lot about that area. And also, we need to be able to explain it in an Eli 5 manner. If you know the Reddit terminology, explain like I'm five, because this is very important. You cannot use complex jargon to explain what the field is and how the lay of the land is. So you really need to think ahead, practice that and rehearse that speech multiple times and when asked the question of the broader field. So it's not enough if you can go deep in your area, you should be able to cover the breadth in the general area as well. Those are the tips I got. But most importantly, remember that the investor entrepreneur relationships are best built on mutual respect and shared values. Everything else is just tactics. So these days, the second time around, when I'm raising angel money, that's all I'm looking for: mutual respect and shared values. And if I don't sense that, I typically do not want them as an investor.